down here, if my camera assistant would like to focus on here, we have our two lithium batteries. They're both 100 amp hour, although the software states we're going to get 108 amp hours out of them the way we're using them now. I wanted the ability to make this van provide us with an off-grid ability for a week or two, because that's how long we get out of the water, that's how long we get out of the gas, that's how long we can get out of the toilet. So that's the inverter on, just jumped up a little bit, got a coffee pod in, and let's go. So as you can see from the little display there, I'm looking at the BMV. We're looking at the current monitor there, and that's obviously fluctuating as the coffee machine is taking in the water, heating it up, and then squirting it back out, and it takes some more water in, heats it up, squirts it out. So that's why you can see there's a fluctuation there that peaks at around about 114 amps and then drops down to nothing. So quite okay, and certainly well managed by the onboard battery BMS. So there we go. That is it off. We've used 1% of the remaining capacity of the battery, and there you go, the time remaining, everything else will jump back up now, and the levels return to normal. Obviously got a bit of lights on, the heater's on at the moment, so the fans go in, and we've got some things on charge as well, so that's why we've got that current drain at the moment.
Thank you, darling.
Morning. There's your coffee ready for you.
Oh, nice.
Courtesy of lithium batteries.
Absolutely, and I used to be stuck on like just one coffee in the morning if it wasn't sunny or anything. See, there's more of the crema layer on top, I think.
Yeah.
Remember, it used to go a bit wishy-washy, didn't it? And you could actually see the coffee through it. Whereas I think that's more power going through the coffee maker.
More coffee power.
Coffee power.
I basically searched long and hard for a lithium manufacturer that was up to scratch. Basically, somebody who actually made a battery that went in a vehicle that bounces around and rattles around and vibrates like ours does, like most vans do. Therefore, the components inside are up to scratch. The way they've soldered all the battery systems together and the BMS, all the connections and everything like that is all up to scratch. Putting it in a little cupboard with everything around it, so you need EMF protection, electromagnetic field, so you don't want anything interfering with your lithium battery or the BMS of that, so that's got that protection. And then is the Bluetooth side of it. I wanted the ability, and it started off by just wanting the display. I've seen John and Tash have got lithium batteries, and it's just got a simple LCD display on it that tells them the percentage left. And I looked for those, and I'm thinking, that's all right. And then I found the Bluetooth ones that are out there, and I thought, well, that's even better, isn't it? Because I mean, I like the Victron for all the Bluetooth connectivity. So who doesn't like an app on the phone that tells them all this information? And that's basically what I came across with these batteries. Polinovel seem to have got the battery right. It's a mega battery, giving out all the power you need, up to 100 amps of burst, which is more than enough for what we're doing. With a little app on there that basically tells you all the information you need to know. The health of the battery, its voltage, how many amps are coming in or out, you know, like I say, the percentage left that it's calculated itself, and all that is absolutely fantastic. And that little point as well I touched on there about the amps, the actual load that you can put on these batteries. A few of you commented after the last video saying, oh, your new 3 kilowatt stroke 6 kilowatt inverter isn't right for your batteries. It is, if you think that I bought the inverter because I wanted a pure sine wave inverter, and I wanted the little switch, the on-off remote control switch, to be the same as the last one, so I didn't have to drill a new hole in my cupboard. But the inverter was bought because, like I say, it was the right size to fit in the hole with the little remote button, and it was the right capacity to be able to charge the e-bikes and ultimately Mandy's new coffee maker. Which is about 1.3 kilowatts, which is the biggest load we're going to put under there. So in our efforts to make us a bit more comfortable and use more things, we've got bigger batteries and bigger inverter.
Yes.
Mandy's mostly far happier that she's got some girly stuff. like GHD hair straighteners?
I have not straightened my hair properly since March. And that was when Jo lent me her straighteners when we were in Gothland.
Ah, right, before we bought this van?
Before we bought this van.
Wow.
I've got those little rechargeable ones which are okay for topping up like fluffy ends, but not particularly brilliant.
Okay. So first of all we're going to use the hairdryer.
I'm going to use a hairdryer.
And that means you're going to get dry hair, but ultimately I want to see what we're using and what we take out the battery.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so that's us fully powered 240 in the van now. So, hairdryer.
Hairdryer. Will it reach? Yeah.
There is another socket over your head behind the TV.
There's a socket behind my head over the TV.
And obviously there's one closer where you plug your coffee machine in.
And there's one where... I do live in this van, honestly.
We don't use mains electric a lot though.
That's very true. That is very true.
Right, there you go. So the bonus is it's working, and then if you just look at the stats, 48 amps. Then Mandy went over to full power on the hairdryer just to see what that drew, and as you can see, around about 104 amps. And obviously then the battery's trying to calculate, or the BMS is trying to calculate, sorry, exactly how much time you got left in that. We've kind of ignored the BMS really. We're using the app, the Polinovel app, and this has given us far more accurate information. So you can see both batteries are in there. The Bluetooth connectivity works fine anywhere in the van or in and out of the van. You can see the load on there. Now bear in mind this is one battery, so that load is double, so this battery is just showing half the load effectively. And yeah, you've got all the information you need, state of charge. You can see there between that percentage and the Polinovel one, that's saying 57%, but the Polinovel battery app is actually saying 61%. So this is the big difference really for us, is the ability to absolutely know down to the last percent and all the other details, the health details and everything like that, what's going on with these batteries through the Bluetooth app. So the 200 amps load that I can get out of these two lithium is perfectly fine. Don't copy my system and then try and run straight 3 kilowatts out of it, because the BMS in the lithium batteries will shut the batteries down, which is their way of protecting them from a overload protection. So that's another good bonus of these batteries as well. Like I say, the details of the batteries, if you want all the technical stuff, I am not a battery salesperson. I'm not trying to sell these batteries to you. So I'll link to a document that the suppliers sent me that will give you all that information down below. So if you are mega into it, then go and read all the spec to your heart's content. As far as me, and when I make tech review videos, it's all about the experience and the testing side of things, you know, how they fit in, how they work, rather than reading out a load of tech specs which ultimately might not mean anything to you. So let's go back into what we think of the batteries, and the crux of it is they do exactly what we hoped they would do. They provide all the power we need. We can have no sun for days and days and days and we've still got loads of power. Everything runs perfectly. There's not a dip in power like you get with lead acid, where it starts to fade off and things don't work so well, or the lights dim and stuff like that. You know, if you turn multiple things on at once and the lights dim, we don't get anything like that. Everything just works perfectly. The power is there when we want it. So now it's straightness time.
It is.
And that means, do you reckon that's going to be more power or less? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I'd say less.
Less power?
Yeah.
Right, and so with the hair, because obviously it was that noisy, you were saying the hairdryer, low power is better to use with a brush?
Yeah, so because I use my brush and run it through like that, the low power is better, otherwise the hairdryer blows all the hair off your brush.
Right, okay.
Excuse my brush, I've had it for like 10 years, it's my favourite brush.
But the high power dries it faster.
But the high power dries it faster. So I think it's probably worthwhile doing that. Although in reality, what I probably would do if I wasn't in a rush is I'd just let it air dry, and then I'd straighten it.
Okay then.
So yeah, I'm going to switch straighteners on. Are you watching? So straighteners
on.
On.
Good. And then we have to wait for that light to go out, do we?
Yes. It normally beeps.
I can see, oh there it's oscillating. So, as I was saying before, but obviously you probably couldn't hear me, the way that the BMV is working is it's trying to calculate the battery percentage left at one point of its calculation. The rest of it is obviously showing amps and stuff like that. And the beauty about these batteries, oh that beeps means it's ready.
That means it's ready, yeah.
Right, so the beauty about these batteries is that they are Bluetooth connected, so you can see the exact info on the battery rather than what the BMV thinks it is. And this is why last time lithium failed us, because the BMV really hasn't got a clue about lithium batteries, unfortunately. So the straighteners are obviously on, they're now ready to go. Again, the batteries jump back up now because obviously it's not using over 100 amps of power on the hairdryer. So let's see what Mandy's doing on the straighteners.
I think these have warmed up quicker than they warmed up in the house, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was quite quick enough then.
Because normally, I remember I used to put them on and then brush my teeth.
Yeah.
And before I go to work.
So now you're using them, and that's on full power.
There's only one power setting.
So you can see there the steam coming off, and you can hear it drying the hair out.
Well, that's because I've put a protective. I've got my little homemade hair protector for heat.
Okay.
So I put that on. Otherwise, my hair goes brittle really quickly.
Right, and let's check on there now. So that is only using between 21 amps.
Is that all?
Yeah, and then it drops down to about 5. So yeah, it's not permanent. It's coming in and coming out.
Oh, so it's doing it when it needs to heat them back up again then?
Yeah, so that's pretty good. So one thing about all this kind of exercise that we're going through and changing over is just to make our time and our lives a bit more normal. You might say luxurious, you might say normal, in the van. And the last inverter was bought purely, and I get this question loads and loads and loads. If you go and watch my last inverter video, I talk about the different types of inverters, pure sine wave and modified sine wave. And I say pure sine wave is by far the better, and then they install a modified sine wave because we were only using it on a coffee machine. And I did state that, it's just that a lot of people skipped through that video. So then they told me in the comments, you bought the wrong inverter. Which I think is quite funny really, but it's what it is. So yeah, modified sine wave is perfect for appliances, things like kettles, you know, coffee makers and all that kind of stuff, with a caveat on the coffee maker. But it wasn't actually that good for the hairdryer because it was only a 2 kilowatt inverter, and the hairdryer, as you've seen, draws an awful lot of power, and it kept tripping it out on full power. So we've not only swapped to lithium batteries now, but we've got a 3/6 kilowatt pure sine wave inverter, and that means we can really charge anything in the van. And this was for 2 reasons. Let's go to the coffee machine again. Mandy wanted to change the coffee machine so that the front of the coffee machine flips up so she can get your travel cup in.
Your travel cup in. And I didn't swap it, we had it in the house.
Yeah, we already had it.
We already had it, and because it wouldn't work with the inverter, because we'd probably go on to that one, it wouldn't work with the inverter.
Yeah.
So we had the older one, which didn't have the flip up bit.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
yeah.
Okay.
So now with the new inverter, it can actually work with this on them. I think the crux of it, and a lot of people said this, is some of the coffee machines are slightly kind of intelligent to the supply that they're being kind of given, so they won't switch on under certain conditions. So the new one, for example, wouldn't work with the old inverter. With the new inverter, both of them work fine. Go figure. And I know a lot of other people have mentioned this as well. So the new one has a little flip up front. You can get a little travel mug in. That works fine. Ultimately, I'm just giving you a review of the batteries that we've got in our van and how they work for us and how much it's changed the way that we live in the van. And the fact that we've just got power and we don't have to worry about it. I mean, for example, we got down to 20%-ish the other day. We went out for a drive. I think it was about 2 to 3 hour drive, and we were back up about 80%. Or if the sun's out, you know, like you maybe on an average day we'll go down 20%. So over a 24-hour period, we'll use 20% of the 200 amp hours. Usually within a day we're back up. If it's a sunny day, we're back up, or if we've done a bit of driving, we're back up to 100% by the end of the day anyway. So it's pretty good. But like I say, the best bit about going to Scotland for us was the weather was typical. There was no sun, and we weren't driving that much. Say some days was only about half an hour away from somewhere else, so there's no real charge going on, and we didn't have any battery problems whatsoever. And we had the little fridge, the 12-volt fridge in the back, and we had that on freeze as well, which used an awful lot of power. I think it was like 45 amps a day or something like that. So yeah, with a little bit of, you know, half an hour drive in, or maybe a tiny bit of ambient light going through the solar, we didn't have any problems whatsoever for a couple of weeks, being totally off grid. It was absolutely brilliant. Don't worry about if your electrical system isn't quite how should we say, showroom ready.
Yes, a showpiece itself.
Yes, it's not a showpiece. Ours isn't a showpiece. Ours is an electrical system that works perfectly and is very safe. They simply just drop in place of your standard AGM or lead acid batteries. So my solar controller is the same one, and the battery charger that's built into the van is the same one. Nothing else has changed. So the beauty about these Polinovel batteries is they come with a Bluetooth connector that tells you all about the batteries. It can show you the current voltage. Are you receiving a charge or is it dissipating a charge? So right now, obviously it's 0.7 amp out. Bearing in mind this is one battery, so when you look at them both as a power bank, that means 1.4 amps in total. Tells you the temperature of the batteries, how many cycles it's had. If there's any alerts like high voltage alerts or low voltage alerts, those get logged in there. You can go in and actually look at the cells and see if there's any alerts been issued for each of the cells inside, what the current voltages are for each of the cells, all sorts of stuff. So now we've got this new lithium. What do you think now? I
think it's brilliant. I think it's as much as it is, it's so much easier. It's kind of thoughtless now. Don't need to think so much about it. I'm still in a bad habit of saying, can I have a coffee? Instead of just looking and seeing that, you know, if it says 62%, we've got 62%. And I know it's not quite taking the mickey in the way of just like burning it all up in coffee. Oh, I would probably, because I love coffee. But no, definitely seem to be more reliable. And I used my straighteners this morning, as you might have seen yet.
I was going to ask about this because there's 2 points, isn't it, they're going to mention now?
Yeah. With my straighteners, they heated up faster than they did in the house. So when I switched my straighteners on in the house, I'd have a shower, I'd dry my hair, I'd flick my straighteners on, and then I'd go back into the bathroom and I'd brush my teeth, and then by the time I brushed my teeth, the straighteners would be ready to use. Whereas now, it was 20 seconds. It was 20 seconds today. It was just like that.
And you notice your new coffee machine.
And the coffee makes coffee quicker. Who doesn't want coffee quicker?
I don't think the coffee makes it, but the coffee machine makes it.
Yeah, the coffee machine makes it quicker. Yeah, and it just seems to... it's got the crema layer on the top, because I've got the Nespresso machine, so you get like that little foamy layer on top. That is better. There's more of that now, so it's like there's more power going through the coffee machine.
Cool.
So the two things, good. Good.
So yeah, there we go. That's Mandy's review of why you should all buy lithium.
Yes, all buy lithium now for coffee and straighteners.
So the Victron controller is all set up with the correct lithium profile as per the supplier. So Quality Source will give you all the information you want about how to set up all your charging systems, whether it's solar, B2B or mains charger and everything like that. The rest of the stuff that came with the van, which is an intelligent battery to battery charger and also mains hookup charger, they work fine as well. That's set to the right profile that basically pushes through the correct voltage at the right amps. I think on average it's not quite 20 amps, it's about 18 to 19 amps that supplies as we're driving down the road or when we're on hookup. Obviously driving down the road that works fine, we tested out that loads, and then it would just sit there and float. You could see the batteries saying they were on standby, so they weren't discharging or charging, they were on standby because the batteries themselves knew that the load was coming in from the battery charger was enough to supply everything that was asked of it. So the batteries are like, listen, we're not really doing anything right now, we'll just sit down and go on standby. And that's the ultimate thing about the batteries, is you've got to remember lithium batteries, with this specific battery anyway, the BMS in there is meant for what we're doing, for living off-grid, leisure vehicles, that kind of stuff. It knows what you're doing, it understands about charges coming in and charges going out. So I hope that's answered a lot of your questions. We've gone through the weight of the batteries, the fact that you're getting almost 100% of those amp hours out of the batteries, the onboard app and all the information that can give to you, how to wire them up, real life scenarios of discharging them, the types of loads that you can put on there, what we use, the types of charges we've got, and how long it roughly takes on each charge to get that charge back up. The longevity of the batteries, they're talking about 2,000 life cycles. So we've had these batteries now for 2 months, and the app is telling me that we're up to 12 charge cycles. So not too bad at all, and that should mean quite a few years worth of charge cycles that we've got left out of them. So like I say, if you've got any further questions, then you can either contact me in the comments section down below and ask questions about my experience with them. If you've got technical questions about the batteries, obviously then you can use the link down below and contact the supplier Quality Source, and they've got a great little chat system on there, so you can just like drop them a message and they'll get back to you straight away, or usually quite quickly anyway. Great little FAQ that you could read first off as well. So yeah, couldn't be happier, and definitely cannot recommend these batteries enough, but lithium batteries definitely, just with the correct way to monitor what's going in and out of the batteries and see the correct charge status. So can't stress that enough. Don't rely on your BMV or anything to tell you what your status charge is with the lithium batteries. Definitely get some lithium batteries with Bluetooth, or even if it's like John and Tasha got with a little LCD display on them, so you can see what the actual battery thinks you got left. Right, thanks for watching the review today, and you guys take care. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.